Good morning. We are in the 5th of 6 in this series of Wicked Wednesdays. And today we've got Patti Scott with us from New Jersey, Neighbors Inc., talking to us about our global question of how do we get rooted back to our values and purpose and realize the resources available in communities. And we will be using Mural as we typically have, and that link has been put in chat. We may want to put it back in there in case people just joined us. I'll do that. So here's the link for Mural. And people are kind of becoming old hat at this. The link, Patti, is a way for us to use electronic Post-its and be able to post things on the whiteboard that you see in front of you if you've clicked on the link. On the right-hand side are all of the different posters that we'll be adding information to. And the first one really is just our welcome to our Over the Hump series. And number 2 is some of our reminders that please only share what you feel comfortable sharing. As you know, the session is going to be recording. We'll take a screenshot of the group so we can have that for the Facebook page and for our unconference series. And we want people to respect others' privacy, so please don't take any personal photos or personal recordings. We'll have you on mute so that we can limit background noise. We'll definitely unmute in the breakout rooms, and please unmute if you have a question or a comment you would like to make. And questions are valid. The only bad question is a question that's not asked. So please ask any questions. And to start the session off today, sheet number 3, which is where we'll be able to use the Post-its. And Patti, on the left-hand side of the screen, you will see a row or a column of icons. The second icon, which is a square with a turned up bottom right-hand corner. If you click on that, that is where you will see some Post-its. You can click on a Post-it and just bring it over to the check-in sheet. And so our check-in sheet, I'm going to change it. So those of you who are already writing, please stop for a moment, because how are you arriving for today's session? We know that everybody's tired. I don't think I've talked to anybody who's not tired these days, but really want to change the focus of it to kind of align with what we are looking at today. And that is, what has motivated you or kept you going through the pandemic with your work? So if you could please share your thoughts about that, what's kept you going with your work during the pandemic, that would be great.
Yeah, I'm not sure I got this down
So
well enough.
if you click on a Post-it, if you've opened up that Post-it sheet, you can click on the Post-it and then go to the check-in sheet, which is number 3, which
I did that.
And then you just click on that Post-it and you can start typing. Actually double click on it and then start typing, and it should show up on the screen.
All right, so let me try that.
What are you, Patti? What's your icon? Do you have one?
No.
Oh,
Maybe,
so you're not even in there yet.
Maybe I'll just say something.
There you go.
You want me to write something for you?
Put it in chat, and we can always cut and paste in chat.
Okay, I'll put it in chat. I don't want to show my inability to learn quickly in front of
You should have seen us all the first 2 weeks.
typing as quick as I can.
That's okay.
As you can tell, Patti, this is a high pressure group.
I actually know several people here, and it's lovely to see them.
It's kind of nice to come and have an excuse to regroup on Wednesday morning. I somewhat enjoy that. Looking forward to it and coming in and resetting for the rest of the week after hitting Monday and Tuesday sideways usually.
That's right.
Hey, Leanne.
All right, so we will, you can continue either adding that information or putting it in chat. Patti is going to be sharing a story with us. So as you're listening to what Patti is saying, sheet number 4 on Mural, if there's anything that really stood out to you from what she is talking to us about, any light bulb moments or any ahas that you have, feel free to add those to the Story Gems page. And you can, again, just use the Post-its and share that information. So Patti, we will turn it over to you. Welcome.
Great. Thank you. It's really nice to be here. And I haven't been able to join any of the sessions yet, but I've been so curious as to how they're going and what they're about. So I'm really excited to be here today. So I'm going to just share a little bit on the screen. And this is more because I can follow my own thinking better when I have something to look at. And because I think you all enjoy it better looking at stuff other than just me while I'm talking. So like most of you, I'm sure all of you, our work in New Jersey, and some of you know about our work and some of you don't, but I run an organization called Neighbors Inc. And we've been doing this for 25 years and it's all individualized supports. And what we really believe is that we are about helping people find life, not about supports and services. And we think life is about discovering your people. And by your people, it's the people in your life who you love and who love you, your best friends, the family you create, the family you were born into, your neighbors, the acquaintances, all of these people who give your life richness and meaning, and also finding good support people, those people who are gonna be by your side and support you day to day so that you can live your life. We think life is about finding a place, and by a place, I think of definitely your own home, not a group home or an agency run home, but your own home, a place where you live. But by place, we also mean your place in your community, who you are in your community, how you show up, what are the roles you take in your community, where do you become a regular? And we believe the other piece about life is helping people find their purpose. Why do you get out of bed in the morning? What are you doing that's making a difference in the world? Why should anybody care why you get out of bed in the morning? And we think if we can support people through our organization to find their people, place, and purpose, we can support them to have a life. And we think this is our job. And in doing this, we're continually looking at what more is possible. So this is happening in your life, but what more is possible to help you move your life forward? And during this time of pandemic, which again, I guess all of you can relate to, figuring out how to do this, how to help people connect with their people, to live their purpose, to be in their places has been a real challenge. And I just want to real quickly share a story of Jeremy. He's someone we work for. Jen, you may have met Jeremy at some points in time. I don't know. He lives in the western part of New Jersey. He's a great guy, and he gave me permission to share his story. And I actually tried to get him to come today and share his story himself, but he's on vacation. And surprisingly, he decided he didn't want to interrupt his vacation to come in and join us. But he did give me a little video clip, which I'll show you at the end. He made it last week so that his voice could be in the room. And so this is Jeremy. He's a great guy. He's in his 30s. He would say he had lots of challenges in life. And in the past 7, 8, 9, 10 years, he's really got his life together. He lives in a small town, and he's a very, very active participant in his town. He rents his own place there, and he's really become a part of the community. And just a few examples of ways in which he's become a part of the community is he works at the local ShopRite, and he makes decent money, and he's been there for quite a while, and he's enjoys the work situation, but the work is just like a small part of his job. He wouldn't say his work is his purpose, but he would say it's part of what he does each day. He is a member of a church. And this is some of the things that he's been involved in the volunteer work. One was a big community dinner. One was on the top part here is blessing bags. And he was also a deacon in the church. He would visit seniors who were stuck at home, who were church members. And in many ways, he felt like he gave a lot back through his church. He is a volunteer firefighter in the town in which he lives. He's in the back row, second from the left. And in this particular firehouse, a lot of what he does is help maintain the house. And his main activity in the firehouse is on Thursday nights when everybody comes together and drinks. He manages and runs the bar. He pours the drinks and hangs out with people, and he enjoys that. But he always wanted to do more with firefighting. And he's a really well-respected member of the firehouse. And in fact, I was there one night when he got an award for his participation, along with some other people in the firehouse who've made a difference. And he is, Jeremy, there's a whole bunch of other things, but I'm not going to go into too many of them. But one of the things that he really does is he is totally interested in weather. Primarily the local weather. And so he follows weather. He posts about weather on the town Chamber of Commerce Facebook page, and he is the town weather person. And he knows everything in the world about it, and it's really useful to people. I was with Jeremy one Friday morning at the place he goes to for Friday morning breakfast, and literally we could not eat our breakfast because everybody who came in and out of this diner, it's called Ma Somethings, it's a little local place, would come over to the table and sit down and ask Jeremy what the weekend weather was going to be, because they were trying to figure out whether they're going to do something outdoors or indoors. And so this is a kind of a summary of Jeremy's life with a whole lot more going on in it besides this. At the time of the pandemic, and a really active member of the community. The chamber gave him an award for his contributions to the chamber and the weather work that he does. And when the pandemic started, it became really tough for Jeremy. He couldn't go to work. There are medical and health reasons that made him a very high risk person to be at work. And that was really stressful for him. And while he would hang out with the firefighters he knew outside, he couldn't go there and do what he did on Thursday night because he couldn't afford to be inside. He was so vulnerable that he had to be super, super careful with what he did. So he would hang out outside, and it started to become kind of depressing for him. Church went into virtual services, and so he did that, but he wasn't seeing people. Seniors weren't inviting anybody into their home to do the visiting that he did. And he started to find it a little depressing. And so Jeremy and us spent some time thinking, and by us, I don't mean me, I mean other people who work more closely with Jeremy. I just have the honor of telling his story. I didn't actually help with anything. But he got connected by Zoom like the whole world did, but that wasn't doing it for Jeremy. So here's some of the things that he started to do over the past year that have made a difference and helped Jeremy to kind of stay strong during this time. He joined 2 other volunteer fire squads, and he joined in a different role. He does drills with them and equipment maintenance instead of kind of maintenance of the hall, and he even gets to go on some calls, which are outdoors. So he got to be part of other firehouses. He extended his connections, and he got to participate in a different way. One of the things that was interesting to me is this had been a dream for him for a long time, to be more engaged in the actual firefighting work. And he's still associated with the first one, but now with these other 2 that he's engaged with, he actually gets to go on the firefighting calls. He's expanded his role as a firefighter, and he's really actively involved because the drills they do where they practice what they're going to do, all of that's outside. So he got to do outside stuff. And so that was one thing that he got connected. And I don't know that opportunity would have existed for him if there wasn't a pandemic, because the firehouses made some extra opportunities available for people in order to have the support that they needed in the firehouses. So that was one thing. Whoops, I seem to have, I went way too far. So here's the second thing that he did. He got involved, and he's going to talk about this a little bit himself in a second, so I won't say too much about it, but he got involved with just one other person, where they were inside, fully masked up in a closed down community, private community center in the town. And they renovated the center during the pandemic, and including the bathrooms, which they made accessible. And they did some other upgrades to this community space. So him and this one guy, along with his staff person, went in there and did this renovation work. And it made a real difference. People who couldn't get in before in wheelchairs are now able to be part of this private restaurant and club. And Jeremy is the creator of this. And he learned, he was not a construction guy, so he learned construction. But again, it helped him do something in his town of Milford, which he is very committed to. So to be part of that, to continue to be part of that town. And one of the other things he did, they revisioned the visits to seniors in the church. And as a deacon, Jeremy was part of planning that out. And what they started doing, instead of visiting seniors, they started bringing food to seniors. And so Jeremy and his staff person would drive around and deliver lunches to seniors, and they'd leave them at the door, and seniors could, open the door, and so they could stand back with their masks on and talk to people a little bit. So they managed to adjust the visits in a way that they were making a difference. And the food thing was incredibly important. And Jen, you might be aware of this, but there were a whole lot of families who were struggling in New Jersey who couldn't get food. We were making food runs out to families of older people who couldn't get food during the pandemic. So Jeremy continued to be able to make a difference that way and contribute to his church community, but also do something that gave him a lot of satisfaction. And the church has now started to meet back in person, and Jeremy did a sermon at the church just a month ago, which is not a pandemic activity necessarily, but part of this extra work he did brought him to the space where he got to do his first sermon at the church. And if anyone's interested in that, you can let me know, because he recorded it and saved it for those of us who couldn't be there. So let me just let Jeremy tell you a little bit in his words, hopefully, if this plays the way I want it to.
Hi, my name is Jeremy Donaldson, and I am supported by Neighbors Incorporated. I just wanted to let you all know that one successful thing during the pandemic that I was able to do last year was I was able to help a restaurant, but actually a private restaurant and club, the Keelersville Club, because when they were shut down, there was a lot of repair and renovations that needed to be done. So, for example, I was able to clean up the kitchen, remodel the kitchen and drop ceiling, and clean up the bathrooms, and to do a lot of work in the club. And when it finally reopened a few months later, the club looked brand spanking new, and that's when it was an excellent thing I was able to do. Thank you. So
that was, it didn't ask Jeremy to share anything in particular other than what's one of the things about the pandemic that helped you to carry on. So what I typed in the chat about what it is that made a difference for me was something, I forget my exact words now, but it was being able to try these new things, to prototype these new ways, to push new edges, to support people, to continue to stay connected to their community and continue to pursue their sense of purpose even during the pandemic. And that's one of the things that gave me energy during this time. And Jeremy is just someone who offers a good example of how it's done, and continuing to think about what are the new opportunities the pandemic offers us, because that renovation wouldn't have been possible if the pandemic wasn't happening, because the place would have been open. What are the new opportunities that are there? How can we take advantage of them? And how can we think a little bit differently to figure out what more is possible for people? And Jeremy's back to work now too, and back to in-person church stuff, and which kind of scares me a little bit. I'm not out that much as he is, but he's vaccinated and masked and incredibly careful. So that's the story. Is that okay? Am I in the right time frame?
Absolutely.
And we are flexible at all levels, so we're good.
Okay.
So thinking about Patty's and Jeremy's story will send us into breakout rooms for about 15 minutes. And really thinking about this goal of, or this, how about that?
I have the
Fine.
question if you want me to
I have it here. Oh,
read
sorry.
it. Go. Okay. Well, do you want me to read it, Bob?
Sure, that'd be great, Patty. As we
Okay.
said, we are flexible.
Hopefully I have it right. How do we get rooted back to our values and purpose and realize the resources available in our community? Did I get
That's
that
it.
right?
That's
Okay.
it. So that'll be our topic for 15 minutes, thinking about what have you done, or what ideas have you had, or what ahas have you had just from what we've experienced this morning. And Patty's sharing. Okay, and as you're having your conversations, just a reminder that mural sheet number 6, which is any of the top 3 items that you think the rest of the group needs to hear, please put those on the sheet so we can record those, or put them in chat when we come back so we can put them on our Post-its. But that'll help us with our debrief when we return.
We are all the first ones back.
Now they'll be back soon. There was like 12 seconds before the rooms automatically. There we go. Close.
Michael, all those words of wisdoms are falling flat with that muted mic.
Oh, I was just singing to myself. No, so I was just saying everybody's back. And so if we're going to do a report back, room 1, Bob, that's you, Patty, Leanne, and Demir.
And Demir is our spokesperson.
All right, appreciate the microphone. So some of the points that we spoke about was asking the questions differently, instead of focusing on, what resources are available to me right now or what resources are not available to me, is flipping it around and saying, how can I be a resource, especially during this challenging time. The pandemic has forced us all to look at the complacencies with our approaches, things that we've fallen into, habits over the years, and question us, how can we change these things? It's a great opportunity for that. And as that's happening, as we're going through this, it's, the power of Jeremy's story is very inspirational. So what can we do for someone else by sharing those stories? Can that help motivate someone else? Can that help, give someone an idea of a path that they'd like to go on?
All right. And what's that?
I was just saying, thanks, Demir.
Yep, thanks, Demir. And anything else anything that anyone else want to add from room 1? And if not, then room 2 was Caroline, Jen, Lori, Steve, and myself. Did you all, I came in a little late, did you all have someone recording, or do we need to get a volunteer real quick? Anyone want to share some of the highlights of our
I'll
conversation?
start and let other people fill in.
That sounds good.
The first thing that struck me, or the thing that struck me sort of the hardest, was that when Patti said this wasn't me, it was other people in the agency. That sense of creating a culture that empowers those folks who are working with people to go out and make change and expect that they're going to do discovery and try things. And I'm guessing, we also had a few hints from Jen, but I'm guessing, Patti, that your story doesn't include a whole bunch of failures and things that might not have worked, and all the relationship and culture building that came to build that foundation that made that work possible. And that's what struck me, is how do we change that culture so that there's more than the facilitator coming in to lead a meeting when things get stuck, and there's people kind of doing those conversations all the time.
All right. So anyone else want to add anything from our group's discussion? I think one of the things that we did talk about, I think we put this in the highlights though, was, the idea of really, if you're working in an organization, really to take the time and make the investment in helping, obviously build skills, but really embed the values in people and give them the freedom, flexibility to make those mistakes that you're talking about, Lori, and to find ways to help people connect. And that means that I had a thought in my head. And that means the realization that there really is no formula for success other than, kind of realizing your own gifts and finding ways to use them in supporting other people, understanding their gifts, and then trying to find your way by understanding the places where you're at. So I think that's one of the things that that I certainly try to do when I'm working in communities. But also one of the things that I had mentioned was the idea of just finding ways to get inside some of those groups. So you saw the groups, the churches or the firehouses or the cultural arts councils or the, whatever the community organizations are. If we have more people kind of getting involved and opening the doors from the inside, those are ways to help people find places and connect and help communities understand inclusion. Collusion.
You might be onto something there, Michael.
That's definitely part of the strategy. There's a lot of collusion going on collusion for inclusion. But anyway, so those are a few of the things.
Can I comment on something Lori said? Oh, unless someone else wants to say something.
No, go ahead. I was just going to think about next steps.
Okay, I just I think Lori just made a really awesome point, and one of the things organizationally we try and focus on is this culture of prototyping and trying new things. And one of the biggest things about prototyping is you can't let it be so big that if it goes wrong, someone's going to wind up dead or you're going to wind up losing $1 million. So you have to keep it small. But if you're going to do good prototyping, you have to be prepared to fail, and you have to have a culture that says it's okay to fail. And in fact, we've taken to kind of celebrating failure because it means you're learning, it means you're trying stuff, it means you're going out on, pushing some edges. If everything succeeds, it means you're being really safe and you're not really learning much and you're not pushing the edges. So I think that creating that culture and creating that safe space and actually creating ways to celebrate failure that brings learning is a real good thing for an organizational culture.
Patti, that's a perfect lead-in for the next breakout room question I was thinking of is, what can we do to make all of these great ideas a reality? And really, how do we help, even with this idea of failure, how do we help people feel comfortable with being empowered to do that? Not just the people supported, but also those who are providing the supports to take those steps and take that risk and take that challenge. When they're feeling overworked, when they're feeling stretched thin, when they've got lots of other stuff going on, when they may have had a history of being slapped down for trying something in the past, what can we do to really make this reality? So what are some practical strategies that you guys can think about in our next breakout room? And I've put that in chat. And any thoughts that you come up with in your breakout room, you could add those to sheet number 7 on Mural, which is the second conversation gold nuggets. Okay, and let's see, we've got, why don't we could do 15 minutes. I think we've got enough time for 15 minutes. Okay, Michael?
Yep. And so this time I'll go to 1 and you can go to 2. How's that, Bob?
Sounds good.
All right. And we're, you said 15 minutes again?
Yep.
All right. We're on it. See you later. Fasten your seatbelts. Damn, Patti, I was just getting to the revolution.
I'm in for the revolution.
They say you want a revolution.
Why, yes, I do. Turns out. All right, so why don't we start with number 2?
All right, number 2, who wants to be our reporter?
So we had Caroline, Jen, Leanne, and Steve, and Bob, I believe.
I'll go ahead and share the screen. These are some thoughts that I gathered that I thought were impactful as we were having our conversation.
Team 1, you better move some stickies in there. We're slacking.
And
Wasn't that your job?
No.
and
on it.
I'll talk about them a little bit, but I really would encourage the rest of the group to share your thoughts as well. Really thinking about building upon what Patti said is that mistakes are expected and we need to learn from them. And in order to do that, we need to back up those who are providing the supports when things don't go well, and really taking that to heart. And in order to do that, people need to take risks and really talk with folks to see what opportunities that creates, and be bridges for the people we support rather than doors, because doors only get us inside, don't make connections happen. And find new things together. You know, people who have similar interests are bound to find others that have those same interests. So really make that happen. And above all else, the person is the pilot and we need to become the co-pilot, not the other way around has been the traditional way of approaching things. So anyone from the room have anything they'd like to add to that or expand on that?
I was just saying in the conversation that the idea of creating a culture where failure, we talked a little bit about that. It's not about if you have a failure and you were neglectful or didn't do your job. It's more about being supported when you step out and try something and it doesn't work out, right? So that's really important that happens, that what you say you're going to do, actually you do. So, and in experiencing that firsthand, it really does generate a different sort of idea. And you look for innovation, you look for things that you look at things a little bit differently. So that idea of if you're gonna put that out there, that's what we're going to do as a culture, that you have to be prepared as a leader to back that up and to actually, to be that support. I think that was the big, for me, that was the big takeaway.
Thank you, Jen. Okay, Michael's room is up.
Yes, indeed. And they are Patti, Demir, Lori, and myself. And who would like to report back a little bit?
I'm just standing here having a wow, and it all seems so obvious, but that idea of how as leaders we can get in the way and how to get out of the way, and then how to get the other management to be willing to get out of the way, right? So how do we all get out of the way, and how do you lead that? How do you lead a non-leadership revolution? You need, I don't know, I'm spinning. So thank you guys for the good conversation. That's why I joined this group on Wednesdays.
I think one of the things, just a quick thing, which is an important thing and foundational thing, was sort of investing the time and making it possible for supporters to wander. I forget what Diamond's roving listening. I can't remember, Patti, but I just and I talk about kind of like over the years just sort of wandering through communities to encounter groups and places, and whether it's urban, actually physically walking communities, like some of the work that Diamond talks about in Indianapolis, I think, or in other places, just being at events and organizations and with people and neighbors to sort of kind of start to understand. I always liken it to the Matrix, when Neo starts to see code and he starts to have an understanding of what's underneath everything. I know it's not a very community kind of analogy, but for me, it's like, I feel like over the years, I've started to see the code in communities where you can kind of see how things flow and how people connect, and where there are doors that are open, or possibilities and things that, gifts that, people might bring, and how to connect them with other things. So I find it to be the real artistry of, inclusion work, person-centered work, and it's not an easy thing to get people to embrace, because although these are teachable things, it really requires investment, and it requires organizations that are willing to sort of take risks and let people kind of go into those places in ways that systems don't really get or want to necessarily permit.
I think there's something to people actually walking around and doing it for themselves that helps them embody the experience and understand it in their body and not just hear the words in their head. And I think that has a whole different way of people carrying it forward.
Yeah.
I mean, people go to education events, they have a good day, they might even do interactive stuff or practice stuff, but it's not the same as going out there and really experiencing and embodying out in the world what we want people to do, and doing it with them side by side to reflect on it as they experience it. I found that really helpful.
Yeah, experiential learning. I mean, there's so many analogies to, and where, I work in education where everything's like some turnkey training, like somebody's going to go take something online and then come back and like, teach everybody else. It never works. And even like when we think about person-centered planning or person-centered thinking, things like that, my experience has always been, if I'm working with people, as far as person-centered planning goes, going into a place and being with a student and their family and their team and actually creating a person-centered plan with that person, and then working over time with the educators to, and the team and the student and the family to implement it, is better than any training anybody's ever going to have. But and the same thing goes with community building and community connecting. But people want a prescription and a workbook.
To build on what you just said, and also what Patti was saying, is I think patience is a huge one from everyone involved. If it comes to in meeting, asking someone for an opinion, very quickly tends to be a mom or dad who'll jump in with an answer while the person might just be thinking. But when it comes to, within whatever activity they might be doing, as Patti said, we can do so much to help someone and whatnot, but the experience that they get out of that compared to them going through it themselves is world apart. I think that's one of the big pieces to this, is helping everyone manage their own patience, and us as a system pushing back and saying, it's okay, take the time that you need to right now. Don't worry about the qualm part of it, and all that other stuff. Is just focus on the experience and let it go. And then I'm still also blown away with the other point of celebrate the failure. As long as it was one of those true, you've put yourself out there. Yes, celebrate that failure. What can we learn from it?
All right. Anyone else from the group 2 or group 1?
All right, very rich conversations today. So great topic. Thank you, Patti, for helping us think outside the box. It's so refreshing to do that. And next week is our final session for our Wicked Wednesday series. And the topic next week is up here. How do we give back the power to people with a disability to help the system take a back seat? So kind of building on our theme of what we've talked about today. So I hope you will join us. Our speaker next week will be Liz Leach from England, who will be sharing some words of wisdom with us. And we look forward to you joining us. I hope you have a good week, the rest of the week. And just to kind of close out our time together, mural sheet number 8 is our checkout. So what did you appreciate about today's session?
Can we do a lightning round, Bob? We got a small enough group.
We could.
Anybody want to start around, or maybe I can call around? You can pass if you want. Just something you appreciated, something you heard or learned.
Maybe one person starts and then selects the next person.
There you go. Could do that.
So go ahead and start, Michael.
Well, it's nice to have my neighbor from Neighbors kind of do a session. That's pretty cool. And so nice to see you, Patti. Nice to see all y'all. And it's definitely a topic that is, I mean, it's not even a topic. It is really the whole of our work. It's everything that, it is the thing. So, I just appreciate it, us putting it in the forefront where it belongs. And I'll pick Leanne.
And I was gonna write a sticky, but I'll just say it instead. My takeaways from today, my favorite quote, ditch the hierarchy. Ditch the hierarchy, get out of the way. And how do we learn, instead of learn to lead, how do we learn to follow, listen and follow? Too often we are the problem and we want to get out of the way. And I will tag Patti.
I think, well, I really enjoyed my conversations, the small group conversations. That was awesome. And seeing people that I know and getting to talk to them a little bit. One of the things that crystallized for me in the conversation was the idea of reframing the question to how can I be a resource to my neighborhood as opposed to what are the resources in our neighborhood. I think that'll help me communicate a little bit better of what we're trying to do to some of the people that we work for and work with. Oh, I need to pick somebody. I'm gonna pick Lori.
I'm leaving today's sessions with a very full and expansive brain. But what I appreciate about that is that it comes from being in conversation with like-minded people who make safe spaces. So thank you all.
And who's next, Lori?
Sorry, Demir.
Thank you, Larry. Yeah, similar to that, I'm just extremely appreciative for having different perspectives and having these safe rooms to have these conversations. My mind opens up more and just lights up. And you guys have already mentioned a couple of the takeaways, but the last one I'll add is celebrating the failure. I'm excited to call some people after this and say, hey, that was a great job. And tell them about mine.
Who's next, Demir? We got Jen and Steve.
All right.
Caroline.
I'll go with Steve.
Okay.
So I'm taking away the fact that we're all transforming the way that we do stuff in terms of how we're going to move forward. And if one thing this pandemic has taught us, it's we need to reassess everything that we've been doing up to this point, and realizing that I guess it's not that we're doing things wrong, but we need to reassess in terms of our relationships and what that's all about and how we support people and switch that whole thing around. And I was the one that was talked about where the person becomes the pilot, they drive the service, and we're behind, we're supporting. And that's transformative because it changes the culture of what we've been doing for years. And that's being, allowing the person to take the lead. So, and I'll pass it over to Caroline.
Thanks, Steve. Like somebody else had already said too, I like that question about, instead of looking for resources in community, how can I be a resource? And I also being that person with disability, I really like that one to take back to my teams and programs as well. And also one piece about looking for bridges instead of doors. It doesn't have to be some big, huge thing and stuff like that. It's just a small conversation with the stranger next door, down the street, whomever, taking the time to wander. It's just little pieces. We know that, just a reminder of some of those little things. And I picked
Closing us out.
So, well, I'm always, I was saying in one of the groups, I love, Patti, I love how you tell stories, and I love that they're reminders of possibilities of the ways, the way things can be, right? And I think with every Wicked Wednesday that I've been to, I always leave with this energy of being recharged and being reminded of why, why I'm in this business, this game, this it's even more than that, right? It's why I'm doing this work. And I needed this reminder this morning. So this was really, really timely. And having the experience of working at Neighbors and knowing the culture, and I encourage everybody to really think about the ideas of being okay with the failure and encouraging the innovation, and the ideas of, it's a very flat organization and some of these other things, because you know, I changed as a person being there, and I you know, I started my own agency, and I just me, myself, and I, right? And everybody I bring on, I try to remember the things I learned there, and I try to encourage the people that come on. You know, we don't have supervisors, and we don't have the, you know, the 14 tiers of nonsense. It's me and a bunch of people, and we hang out and do stuff, and we try and fail and get yelled at by the division and get up and do it again. And, you know, it's because I worked there. It's because I learned to think that way. And it's because, so I'm extremely grateful and re-energized and, you know, hopeful and rambling on, and I apologize. So yeah, so thank you guys. Thank you for the conversation and for the reminder.
All
And thank
right.
you, Patty.
To close us out, I really appreciated all the conversations today and really moving us from what needs to happen to how to make it happen. So we have some practical ways to do that. And thank you, Patty, for getting this conversation going. And thank you all for your continued contributions over the weeks here. And I really hope that we have built some connections that will continue after the Wicked Wednesday series is finished, so that we can continue to build on our strengths and our thoughts and our opportunities and be a support to one another. So I think I'll talk with the planning
All
group,
right.
keeping an email list
Yeah.
if people are okay with that.
Sure. Well, nice to see you all. Let's get out there and fail.
I got that under control.
Fail forward. Let's go.
I have a PhD in that.
Have a good day,
All right,
everyone.
See you all next week.
This was great. I hope you all have a great day.
Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Patty. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Nice seeing you again, Patty.
Yeah, nice seeing you too.